League veteran Corey Perry is returning to the NHL and is linked to multiple teams. We'll break all this down for you coming up on this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we get into it, just want to say we're on the road for 3,000 subscribers here on the channel. So if you're looking for a place for daily NHL content, look no further. Go down below, hit that subscribe button, get us a little bit closer to our goal of 3,000. But with that said, let's get right to the first topic video, which is Corey Perry is back. And as we take a look at a tweet from Chris Johnston, he said, can confirm that Corey Perry is eligible to sign with any NHL team as a free agent after having his contract terminated by the Blackhawks in November. He said he would need to be signed by March 8th trade deadline in order to be eligible for this year's playoffs. And they also go on to say here, like we just mentioned, that his contract was terminated back in November, but he did meet with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. I think it was just yesterday or today even, and he didn't need to meet with him, but he met with him just to make sure that he was okay to come back into the league. They say here the Blackhawks removed Perry from the active roster prior to the 7-3 loss in Columbus on November 22nd. After he went unclaimed on waivers, the contract was dissolved. The team released a statement saying it determined he engaged in conduct unacceptable by the team and in violation of both the teams about the terms of his standard player contract and the Blackhawks internal policies. And obviously this was a big news back in November, and we do see from Pierre LeBrun, he said Gary Bettman didn't actually need to clear Corey Perry because the commissioner hadn't barred him from playing to begin with, but Bettman met with Perry at the player's request. And we see here, obviously, Corey Perry, a league veteran, started his career back in 05-06, almost 20 years ago. I mean, that's just crazy to me that he's almost been in the league for 20 years. But before he went out this season, he did have 9 points in 16 games. But obviously, Corey Perry has been a big name in the NHL for a long time. And we see here from Frank Cervelli that I think this story is far from over. I think there's actually been a couple of teams in the last 24 to 48 hours that may have been interested in adding a player like Corey Perry. So I think there's a lot left to be written here. And Mark, I know that is a lot of information to kind of take in right there, but I mean, Corey Perry is allowed back in the NHL, and I really do believe we will see him signed.
The big thing with this is obviously there was a lot of rumors floating around Corey Perry, and nothing was really confirmed on it. Obviously, what Avery did just kind of broke the rules and conducts of the Blackhawks organization. But seeing that he wasn't really barred from the league, that this was just a thing that he kind of stepped away from, the Blackhawks obviously terminated his contract. It's nice to see that he wasn't banned or suspended from signing with a team. Obviously, teams have done their due diligence on this, they've looked into him. This is a guy that can bring a veteran leadership to your bottom six. We've seen him with multiple teams. I mean, I was going to say multiple Stanley Cup teams, but he did go on the span of 3 years being on the opposite side of the Stanley Cup being raised. But this guy brings the leadership in a lot of senses. He can bring depth scoring, and he also brings this hard-nosed snottiness that a lot of teams are looking for in a veteran that they can almost just inject into a lineup and just kind of bolster that line.
Yeah, and obviously we'll never know really what happened here in Chicago. I really think those details may come out once he retires, maybe years in the future, but obviously it could have been something too horrible to not been banned from the league, just something that, caused him to be terminated by the Blackhawks. But if you're Corey Perry in this situation, you sign to a new team, it's got to be a little bit awkward for him walking in that dressing room with all those rumors that came out, went viral on social media. I mean, it's got to be hard for him to walk back into a dressing room at this point.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And teams are really going to deep dive into this. They're going to figure out exactly what happened. I'm sure a lot of people around the league have talked about it with general manager executives. And it's maybe something that just hasn't put out into the media on respect for the Blackhawks and whatever that situation was. But he's going to be a guy that you can put into a dressing room. I think into the right dressing room, he can bring a lot of leadership and just really just kind of elevate a team. I know, like we've said, the rumors are a big situation, but if Corey Perry addresses these and if he got the help he needed during the span, I definitely think it's something that you can kind of push back into the past. It's not something you can forgive him for, obviously, if this was as bad as it was, but it's a thing where it's in the past. You need to kind of just use him as a player and not really focus on his off the ice antics.
You said it right there. Obviously, the league's forgiven him, so I think the fans of the league should forgive him as well. I will was a big fan of Corey Perry back when he was on my Montreal Canadiens when they went on that big run to the Stanley Cup. I think he was a great leader in that dressing room. One of my favorite stories to come out was when he put his stick in the middle of the dressing room upside down the garbage can and said, "We need a garbage goal here, boys." But I mean, that's just many memories. I know a lot of people have a lot of memories of Corey Perry, but I really hope we do see him back into a team, a contending team this season. And a team that kind of sticks out to me here, Mark, is the Winnipeg Jets. They're on a roll right now. They haven't let in 3 goals in 30 games, which is a crazy stat. They're shaping up to be a heavy playoff contender this year, and they could be on the road for a Stanley Cup this year. And adding a veteran like Corey Perry in their bottom six could really help them get over that hump.
Yeah, adding a guy like this with the playoff experience, he's had a lot of playoffs. I mean, in general, just games played over the past 3 years. But this is a guy that you can inject into this roster where the Jets don't have a super young roster. But when they did do this Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, they did get a couple just younger guys. I mean, Velarde is still a bit young. So putting him into this lineup, into this bottom six, it would definitely add some scoring to this, the grittiness that every team wants to play. And if we're kind of looking at teams up north, I think the Oilers are another team to kind of keep an eye on. They were having a bit of issues with their bottom six. Obviously, McDavid, Draisaitl, all these guys up front are really going to put up points for you. They've had the situation where they brought Evander Kane in after he had some off the ice antics as well. So maybe adding Perry there, they could work through this, maybe get him back in track, and I think he would be a great add for either one of these teams.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you. Another one that kind of sticks out in my mind here is the Vegas Golden Knights. I really do think that these guys are trying to run it back this year. They have kind of a little bit of a younger bottom six, I guess you could say. So adding maybe a veteran in the mix there in their bottom six in their bottom six lines can really help some of these young guys out. Really be a mentor for these guys and really help Vegas try to push for another Stanley Cup.
Yeah, the big thing with Vegas too, you've seen them run Phil Kessel just last season. I know in the playoffs he became a bit of a liability, so they strayed away from him, but that third line looked great with Phil Kessel. So this might be a thing where they pick up a guy like Corey Perry, you add the experience, a veteran in this league for quite some time, like you said, almost 20 seasons. This is a guy that knows how to score and really get gritty, like I keep saying. He's the perfect guy to fit in Vegas as well, because they play a heavy just style of hockey. They're going to throw their weight around, and I don't think Corey Perry would be kind of any different from the players that they are currently running.
Mark, as of right now, are there any teams that kind of stick out to your mind where we could potentially see Corey Perry land?
Well, as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, I have to say I think he'd fit perfectly in here. I know the third line has always been a situation where they haven't found a guy to fully fit. Nick Robertson looked good on the third line. I know he's been benched for quite a bit. Holmberg stepped in for the past couple of games, and he has looked decent as well. But I think injecting a guy like Corey Perry into this third line with Max Domi and Yaron Croak could almost create a chaos line. Domi's been an excellent playmaker. Yarncroke has been outstanding defensively and just scoring wise. So adding another just kind of snotty guy into that line with a pesky player like Domi could really elevate that line, in my opinion. There's two other teams that kind of stick out a bit too. I mean, when you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, there has been recent rumors that they're looking at a guy like Michael Bunting. Now, in my opinion, Bunting is a better player than Corey Perry. He's younger. He comes at term as well. But if the Penguins wanted to try to jump up the standing, right now they're second worst team in the Metro, but I believe it's only by 2 points. If they win the next game and the Flyers lose, they would jump up to third in the Metro. So maybe adding a guy like Corey Perry, who was familiar with a guy like Sidney Crosby during the Olympic runs, I think could add some veteran leadership to this team. I know it's a retirement home over there right now, and adding another old guy doesn't make the memes any better, but I think he could bring something the Penguins are missing in that bottom six. And then the Vancouver Canucks, I know they've recently been linked to a guy like Jordan Greenway on Buffalo. So maybe if they take a swing and a miss on a guy like this, they could maybe just try to contend even more, add this veteran, just get the leadership of a Stanley Cup caliber player, and then just see where things go.
Yeah, definitely have to agree with you. It'll be really interesting to see where Corey Perry signs here. Let us know down in the comment section below, where do you think Corey Perry ends up? And we'll keep you guys updated with everything that happens here around Corey Perry, where he's linked to. We'll let you know. But right now, there's no reports out saying which team is for certain interested in him, but there is very multiple teams interested in him, right now. And I'm assuming that most of those will be contending teams looking to add some grit, a veteran presence for their playoff run. But let us know down in the comments section below. But we're going to get into everybody's favorite topic here, and that is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to Hawk. He says, we'll lead the Leafs in points for all 8 seasons. I've known he would be this good since the first game I saw him play live in the AHL. And I believe that Hawk was talking about William Nylander when he signed that extension here. Obviously, we're excited on the channel here. Could you see William Nylander leading the team in points for all 8 years?
I mean, it seems that way, especially if some of these guys kind of move on. Tavares is getting up in age. Obviously, we don't have Matthews signed as long as a guy like Nylander. So if Nylander is there for the full 8 years, I think there's a strong chance that he might become the leading scorer or very close to it for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. We're really excited for William Nylander. It's just great to see him get that contract out of the way. But if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to go down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 3,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate it if you went down and hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed the NHL, make sure to check out this video we did earlier today. But as always, I've been your host, KC, alongside my co-host, Mark Pye. Keep your stick on the ice.